Hey everybody, welcome back to my World of Tanks Xbox 360 guide. Today we're going to be talking about the T57 heavy tank and how to use this tank. Alright, now this is an auto-loader tank. This is the second line of heavy tanks in the American tech tree. The other heavy tank is the T11 OE5. Now you say, what's the difference between these tanks? Well, the difference between these tanks is the T11 OE5 is more heavily armored than the T57 heavy tank. They both get the exact same gun. The T57 heavy tank can ricochet some shots. You will be able to ricochet if you know how to angle your armor effectively. I mean, even if you try and angle, shots are still going to go through. But if you know how to angle your armor, it's going to do you better in the long run. Now, there is another tank that looks just like this. The French heavy tank line. We're gonna take a look at the AMX-50B. Compare these two tanks. Alright, now the difference between the T57 heavy and the AMX-50B is the T57 is far better and superior to the AMX-50B. If you want to know which line of autoloaders to go down, T57 heavy. Why? The T57 is smaller in profile, sleeker. AMX-50B is so much taller, bigger target to hit. T57 heavy has better armor than the AMX-50B. The T57 heavy has better reload time than the AMX-50B. The T57 heavy has better aiming time. It can fire its shots off faster. So is there anything the AMX-50B is better at than T57 heavy? Yes, there is. Mobility. The AMX-50B is more mobile. If you get into a situation in the AMX-50B, more than likely you can get out of it with your speed. With the T57 heavy, you get yourself into a predicament. That is not the case. You are screwed. You might as well put your head between your legs and kiss your little tukukus a goodbye. Because there's no coming back if you get yourself into a situation. So, with that out of the way, let's talk about some of the qualities of this tank. Now, whenever this tank was manufactured, this tank came standard with a 120mm gun or 155mm gun. Wargaming decided to give us the 120mm gun on this tank. I think it would have been kind of nifty to have a 155mm gun. Could you imagine the damage? That's what most tank destroyers get. You'd be doing 700 points of damage per shot with that tank. I'm pretty sure they would nerf the penetration power and stuff though, but hey. But yeah, this tank gets the 120mm gun T179. Basically same gun that's on the T11 OE5. Let's talk about the hit points. This tank gets 2,250 hit points. Not bad for a heavy tank. That's pretty much the average. Of course, we all know German tanks always get more hit points than everyone else, but hey. The signal range is going to be 745 meters. Your speed limit is going to be 35.4 kilometers per hour. Your speed limit going backwards is going to be 12 kilometers per hour. The weight of this tank is 54.43 tons. Your load limit is going to be 58 tons. Let's talk about the crew of this tank. You're going to get a commander, a gunner, a driver, and a loader. 4 crew members. Now your commander acts as your radio operator in this tank. Let's talk about the whole armor of this tank. Let's talk about the armor of this tank. The whole armor of this tank. You're going to get 203 millimeters of frontal armor. Sides are garbage, 50.8 millimeters. Rear, even worse, 38.1 millimeters. Garbage. You are not going to be able to side scrape in this tank. For some of you who don't know what side scraping is, I will be discussing that in later video on how to side scrape effectively, and also how to rear side scrape, a technique that I have not been seeing most people do on the Xbox 360 World Tanks. Rear side scraping is something that the Russian tanks can do because of the way that their turrets are placed on their tanks. Let's talk about how to angle this tank. If you look at this tank from the front, that is a big lower glacis. I mean, it's not a small profile. The beak, if people hit you on this beak, they are going to ricochet. They hit you on the top of this tank, they're going to ricochet. It's just going to bounce. But look at this profile on the bottom. I mean, that's just huge. So what you want to do, you do not want to angle it like this. Bad. No, no, no. They're going to be able to penetrate your side. You might get lucky and they might hit your tracks and your tracks eat the shot. But you want to angle your tank approximately about just like this. This will give you the best chance to ricochet a shot. Any more or any less, they have a good chance of penetrating. I mean, even still, if going up against bigger tanks, other tier 10s penetrate other tier 10s, usually no problem, but this will give you the best chance. Let's talk about the turret. Now, if you guys have gone down the other American heavy tank line, you know that those tanks usually get pretty good turrets. So whenever you're going down trying to grind out for this T57 heavy tank, you're thinking, oh man, I'm gonna get a good turret with an autoloader. No, you're not. This tank is completely opposite. The turret is garbage. I mean, it has angling to it. Excuse me. You will bounce some shots because of the way it is. Whenever I fire a shot or someone's trying to fire at me, what I do is I wiggle my turret. Not too much. I just wiggle it back and forth. Just wiggle your turret. Just wiggle it. Because most people will be aiming at your turret. It is such a big profile, and they know that it has no armor. An experienced player will know that this turret is weak. You just want to wiggle your turret back and forth. Not too much. You wiggle like that, you're exposing some of your side there. And which the side armor of the sides are actually pretty well thick. But you want to... You're flattening the frontal part of it. You just want to wiggle. Do a little wiggle, wiggly. The frontal armor is 127 millimeters. The sides are 137 millimeters, but it is flat. Not really too much angling to it. The rear is 50.8 millimeters thick. So do not count on your turret to save your life. Let's talk about the engine power. 110 horsepower engine. Horsepower to weight ratio is going to be 14.88 tons. Traverse speed is 30 degrees per second. Now let's talk about your chances of a fire in this tank. You're going to get a 20% chance of a fire in this tank. It's about average. Average chance of getting set on fire. Let's talk about its ammo. Average shell does 400 hit points. Whether you're firing standard armor piercing rounds or you're firing heat. Now the difference between the armor piercing and heat is you get 258 millimeters of penetration with armor piercing, and you get 340 millimeters of penetration with your heat. You only get 60 millimeters of penetration with high explosive rounds. Do not fire high explosive rounds. Do not even load them with this tank. I would recommend loading. If you're gonna carry heat, I don't carry heat in this tank. I don't need heat. I penetrate my targets reliably with my 258 millimeters of penetration. I mean, if you want to fire heat and waste your silver, go ahead. But I would recommend you get 36 rounds. Now, out of those 36 rounds, I would carry maybe 8 heat shells. Because this thing only gets 36 rounds, and this thing will eat through those rounds very quickly if you don't know what you're doing. And you're going to be left in the game, and you're going to have no rounds. Your armor piercing rounds are going to cost you 1,060 silver. Heat is going to cost you about 4,400 silver or 11 gold. Your high explosive is only going to cost you 900 silver. Let's talk about shell speed. I haven't really talked about shell speeds in my last 2 guides. Shell speed is 1,067 millimeters per second on AP shell, heat, and high explosive. Your damage per minute in this tank is a whopping 3,096 hit points per minute. That means you can take out a fully healthy mouse in 1 minute if every single one of your shots penetrate. But you see, that's why I don't carry heat with my T57 heavy tank. Because when you're going up against the mouse has a lot of spaced armor, and heat hates spaced armor. I mean, it can go through spaced armor, but heat hates spaced armor. So that 340 millimeters of penetration you're firing down the drain, because you're sitting there firing into the side of the mouse. It's sitting there bouncing off because you're hitting the side of its spaced armor. Rate of fire 7.74 rounds per minute. Reload time 25-second reload time. That is good. That is excellent for autoloader with an osculating turret. The size of your clip, 4 rounds in the chamber before you gotta reload. Now the reload time between those shells: you fire, reload, 2 seconds. Fire again, reload, 2-second reload time in between those shots. That is excellent. You're going to be able to get off a shot so fast. Accuracy is 0.34. That is excellent. You have great accuracy. That's better than most tank destroyers. Aiming time is going to be 2.7 seconds. Your gun depression is not great in this tank. It's about 8 degrees of gun depression. You do have some gun depression. 12 degrees of gun elevation. As I said before, this tank gets 36 rounds. Let's talk about the camo value of this tank. The camo value of this tank, while stationary, is 6.85% camo. While in motion, you're going to get a 3.5% camo rating, and when firing, it's a 1.27%. Now, of course, all those will go up dramatically by adding camouflage to your tank. Let's talk about the battle performance of this tank. The average player using this tank. When you're firing, you're going to hit your shots about 78.5% of the time. Your win rate in this tank for the average player is going to be 48.5%. Damage dealt in this tank for the average player is going to be about 2,139. And your kills per battle for the average player, you're going to get about a kill a battle in this tank for the average player, average game. Let's talk about equipment. The equipment that you need to put on this tank to make this tank the best that it can be. You are going to want to put on enhanced gun laying drive on this tank. 10% to aiming speed, because your aiming time is 2.7 seconds. You want to get that down. Vertical stabilizer. You want a vertical stabilizer. 20% to accuracy during movement turret rotation. You want to keep that reticle small. An improved ventilation class. 5% to all crew skills. This is going to help with everything. Everything that you can think of on your tank. Do not go with anything else on this tank. They will do you no good putting other things on this tank. Enhanced gun lane drive, vertical stabilizer, improved ventilation class. Let's talk about consumables. I'd probably go with large repair kit, large first aid kit, automatic fire extinguisher if you can afford it. This tank has a 20% chance of fire. If you don't want to go with automatic fire extinguisher, case of cola would not be bad. Wouldn't even bother with the octane gasoline, guys. Don't. It's not gonna help you. But I just went basic: small repair kit, small first aid kit, manual fire extinguisher. I don't get set on fire that much on my T57 heavy tank. I very rarely do. If anything at all, I get my ammo rack messed up all the time in this tank. Your ammo rack, while in this tank, is going to get beat up. Your turret ring is going to get beat up. Your turret is going to lock up on you all the time. It's just bad. So that's why a large repair kit, because sometimes both of them get damaged at the same time. Your turret ring and your turret locks up, and your ammo rack gets messed up, and you're tracked. You need that large repair kit. But let's talk about how to use this tank in battle. This tank is not a leading tank. At the beginning of the battle, you do not want to be the one in the front. You want to be with the other frontally more armored tanks. You want to be with them because you want to support them. but you don't want to be the one leading the charge into the battle. You don't have the armor as an E5, a mouse, an E100, an E75. You don't have that armor. You want to be with those guys in town maps. This is just talking about town maps. You want to be with those guys to support those tanks. You have a high firing gun. I mean, this thing puts out shots like crazy. But you don't want to sit there, pop out, fire every single one of your shots, and getting shot back. I mean, if you have to take a shot, duck back in, wait for them to fire, or if they don't fire, pop back out again, fire again. You know, play peekaboo with them. I mean, you have that option to do that in this tank. I see people with these autoloaders popping out, trying to fire off all their rounds at this one guy all at once. No! Bad idea. You have different tactics to use with this tank. Now, on open maps, you know, you could play sniping tank. You could play a sniper tank with this tank. It has the accuracy. 0.34 accuracy. That is amazing. That's better than most tank destroyers. You have to wait for your reticle to get small. I mean, it does have a 2.7 second aiming time, but your accuracy is better than most tank destroyers. I mean, this tank is a support tank. It's not a heavy brawling tank. If you face hug an IS-7, an IS-7 is going to win. You face hug an E100, that E100 is probably going to kick your ass. You know? It's not a very good brawling tank. It can brawl. This tank feasts on weak tanks. This tank feasts on tanks that are injured there in the battle. It picks them off and finishes them off and cleans their clock for them. You're a support tank in this tank. You're not an actual heavy tank. You're supporting the heavies. You know, you got the armor, you know, and you got the rate of fire. You can't flank because you're not a medium, because you're not fast enough. You can't really do some spotting because you got the average of every other tier 10 400 meter view range. You know, you just support those other heavies. You use those other heavies as armor. You know. So with that in mind, I'm going to leave you guys with one replay today, because this video ran just I think a little bit too long. I'm going to leave you guys with one replay, and I hope you guys enjoy it. Leave me some feedback if you want. Let me know if there's something that you guys want me to do. I am probably going to be putting in other gameplays of my tanks. I have so many tanks. I'm going to be doing so many guides, guys. Bear with me. It's just going to take a while. But, so many tanks. I have so many tanks I'm going to do guides on, guys. Look at all this. So many. And I have more unlocked. These are only the ones that I have bought right now. I plan on buying every tank, or buying them to do my reviews. I'll be adding gameplays and all kinds of other things. But if there's anything you guys would like me to do or would like to see, let me know.